Welcome to the Extra Point Podcast. We tried something new this week and took the show out on the road to Chase Field, sitting in the stands with Mike Ferrin. Now, Mike Ferrin is a longtime baseball voice in this valley. He spent some time on the Diamondbacks pre- and post-game shows. He has his own radio show on MLB Sirius XM and is also one of the voices of college baseball. You could hear him this weekend calling the University of Arizona game in the NCAA tournament. So there's a lot to talk about. The Diamondbacks, the Wildcats getting into the NCAA tournament, and the Sun Devils getting left out. So here's our conversation from the third baseline at Chase Field.
Fortunately, I have seen all the teams that I have in the regional, so that's made things a little easier. But it's a lot of time spent telling stories, working on stories, trying to find background on players, and it should be a fun regional too. I mean, there's a lot of great connections to baseball history when you have programs like Arkansas and TCU and Arizona there, and Santa Clara being the fourth seeded. I just saw them last weekend. I just did the WCC tournament, and so that's the first time they've been to the NCAA since 1997.
Oh wow!
So it's a pretty cool story. And there's a lot of there are going to be I hope a lot of good stories told over the course of the first 3-4 days of the NCAA tournament.
How would you put your level of surprise that the Sun Devils are not playing in the NCAA tournament and the Wildcats are?
Yeah, I think I would add, can I add USC into that mix?
Yeah,
I think I'm probably most surprised that USC didn't make it.
Yeah.
Just because they were 17-13 in league, they'd swept a series from ASU down the stretch. ASU didn't play well at the end of their regular season, but they won 3 of their 5 games from the Wildcats, and Arizona at 12-18 in league play is you don't see a whole lot of 12-18 teams make it from any conference. Now, they ended up with a midweek win against ASU. They won 3 games in the Pac-12 tournament, so if you want to take an aggregate, they were 16-19, but still there were teams that were better in conference ahead of them. They scheduled well, they had a strong RPI, and it's not like U of A is a team that was near 500 on the season. This is a good team that can really mash. So I'm a little bit surprised just in the sense that if I had put together the pecking order, I think USC and ASU would have been ahead of them, but it's not like it's an undeserving bid for the Wildcats.
And when you look at how the tournament is, I guess, the weight that's given to the RPI versus getting hot for a week, do you feel like going forward there will be any changes when it comes to who gets into the tournament?
It's been a big topic of discussion. In fact, we just, John Cohen, who's the athletic director at Auburn, who's the chair of the baseball selection committee, and also coached Mississippi State to the national final series once upon a time, has addressed this a couple of times, and we just did an interview with him for our Thursday program today, where he said that he feels like the RPI needs to change. And a lot of it is, I think, to try and add fairness to teams in the North and teams in the West who have scheduling issues. It's important to play on the road. That's one of the things that the RPI rewards you for, is going on the road and playing and winning games. But what it needs to it feels like needs to happen is for the structure to be modernized a little bit. And whether that's doing something closer to like ELO rankings, which are based on a chess, which kind of take how much you're beating opponents by and the true talent level on a team, or if it's just some adjustments into how you're scheduling to be able to give more of a break to those teams that aren't, like the SEC, where you're able to play a top 50 team literally every weekend.
Yeah.
I think that there's something that's going to come in. John Cohen said that he wanted to be an agent of change of this when he moved into this role. He didn't really do that this year, but he also didn't want to change horses in midstream, because you can't say that you're going to be an RPI, have RPI matter, and then take it away after everybody's scheduled their seasons and played their games. So I understand where they're coming from, but my hope is that we're starting to see some changes and modernization, not just in that part of the process, but the rest of what's going on in college baseball.
Yeah, and someone's going to get mad at this every year, though.
Every year.
There's always going to be somebody left out, and I mean, the old thing is, if you want to change the result, play better. The Diamondbacks are saying that here as we sit at Chase Field and tape this. As far as that Fayetteville Regional, who do you feel like comes out of that? Do the Wildcats have a chance?
Well, I think they have a chance. I mean, I think their pitching is going to have to be better or more consistent than it has been this year. Arkansas is really good. This is, I think, Dave Van Horn's best coaching job. He's the longtime coach at Arkansas now. 9 trips to Omaha, 7 of them at Arkansas. The first 2 were probably the most impressive because he did them at Nebraska. But terrific coach that they've battled a ton of injuries, but they can really pitch. And this is a weird year for college pitching, where with a lot of veteran bats who still have COVID year eligibility, offenses way up across the country, they're one of the few teams in the tournament that actually can run out 3 legitimate starters for a weekend. So whether it's Hagen Smith or Brady Tigert who's back from injury, or Hunter Holland, who's their Sunday guy, they have 3 really, really good starting pitchers. It's going to be a tough task. Do I think Arizona could do it? Yeah, I think they can go on the road and win there. It's going to be a crazy environment, though. This has been my first trip to Baum Walker. From what I understand, it's an amazing, amazing atmosphere. It was described to me as like being on the infield of the Daytona 500, but with a baseball game going on.
Well, you will, of course, be the soundtrack for that. So tell us where we can find your call and where we can find you socially connecting with fans all week.
Yeah, so ESPN Plus is where all the games will be. I think on the game with Arizona will actually be on ESPNU on linear TV at 6 o'clock Arizona time on Friday night. But all the games will be on ESPN Plus, and Squeeze Play is on ESPN Plus too, which is the best. If you've not experienced Squeeze Play, it's like Red Zone for the college baseball tournament, and it starts at like 10 a.m. our time, and it goes until there's just one game left. And Mike Rooney, who used to be an assistant at ASU, is one of the lead analysts for it. He's my radio partner. He lives in the Valley. Like, Runes is the best, and he is so much fun watching him go around to those games with Chris Burke. That is really well worth your time. If you've never experienced Squeeze Play, it's easy to like get the butt groove going in your couch for 12 hours a day for 3 straight days.
And just bounce around all over the country. That's what makes it so much fun. As we bounce between college baseball and professional baseball here in the majors, we're at the Diamondbacks tonight taking on the Rockies. We're a third of the way through the season. The Diamondbacks 8 games over 500. Would you put your money on this team to be a playoff team?
It's a good question, because I think there have been a couple of teams in the National League that have underachieved to this point that certainly have the talent to be able to get themselves back into the mix. Yeah. Phillies, Mets, Padres, Cardinals, I think, certainly fit that mold. That said, this is a really young, talented team, and I really love the offensive pieces that they have as a group. They are a lot of fun to watch, and every win you bank is one that you don't have to worry about getting in August and September. So you keep playing well, you're going to put yourself in contention. And we know from experience that when this team has been in contention, this front office has supported them at the deadline. So I think it's pretty clear what the needs are. Like, they're probably going to need a more veteran starting pitcher to try and help some of the young guys. They're going to need some help at the back end of games in the bullpen, either as a setup or probably somebody who can finish games. And they have a deep farm system that they can deal from to be able to make that work. So I think they're well positioned. I think they're a team that a lot of people are excited about because of the style of play. But it's not going to be easy from here to the end of the season, because those are some experienced teams, including the 2 teams that played in the National League Championship Series last year in the Phillies and Padres that we still feel like have runs in them.
Can they get it done with these young guys until they get to the trading deadline? Is there a wall they're going to hit that you've seen over the years?
I don't think it's necessarily a wall. I mean, I think you're seeing it start to start, right? Yeah. We saw it with Fott when he came up, struggled, had a couple of really good starts, really struggled, right? We've seen it a little bit with Ryan Nelson. You've seen it with Henry. You saw it with Jameson before he was sent out. The thing about young players is that the gap between AAA and the big leagues is just enormous, right? Yeah. And so being able to learn how to execute consistently sometimes takes time. So I wish I had a more fulfilling answer than I'm not sure. They certainly have the talent to be able to do it, but this is a long process, and this is why you spend years and years in the minor leagues trying to refine your craft so that when you get here, the learning curves can be shorter. We're speeding up those learning curves constantly. Yeah. They're having to learn a lot at the big league level. So I think getting Zach Davies back, I know Davies isn't going to be a guy that's going to go out and throw 8 shutout innings every time, but to be able to give them a serviceable innings eater in the rotation, I think was really important.
Awesome. Have you seen the new thing? The kids aren't collecting baseball cards as much. They're making reels on YouTube now. Have you seen how much this has taken off?
No, I haven't, but this sounds amazing. So they're basically clipping highlights and turning it into
Yes, and they have an editing contest. My son, that's all he's doing.
Really?
Now. Yes.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Have you thought about the next generation of card collectors, like how to engage a younger audience in baseball?
Not necessarily with card collectors, but certainly, I mean, I spend a lot of time thinking about how can you relate to a younger audience. I mean, as a middle-aged guy who covers baseball, which has had an aging fan base, I would be lying if I didn't think it was something that consumed a lot of my thoughts. So I think the fact that we have more access than ever before to highlights, to information, to stories, to players' personalities through the internet and social media is a great thing. And it's something that can really help to build attachment to players and to teams. And so I think ways that you can enhance that, like that's something that seems like it came out organically.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I'd never heard about
I'll show it
that.
to you. It's the phone that we're recording this on. It's on there. So I will show it to you after this, and I'll put a clip over when we post this. But yeah, it's super cool.
It's great.
First one to 2,000 likes wins. It's super cool.
Like all of these changes that are happening, right, with the pitch timer and the desire for more action and all of it, part of it is to appeal to a younger audience. The other part is to, for guys our age, to kind of harken back to the baseball we fell in love with, right? The idea being, I think, in part that if we see baseball closer to what we fell in love with, we're more likely to get our kids involved, or kids of people our age involved. And so I think all of those things are part of what Major League Baseball is trying to do to grow the game. We'll see how successful it is. There's going to be some things that are, there are going to be some that aren't. But I'll tell you what, the time of game thing, I mean, you can speak to this now, as a dad with a couple of kids. Like, it's probably a lot easier to bring your boys on a weeknight than it was a year ago.
Right, absolutely. That, and when you have a 10:30 show every night, shameless plug on 3TV. It's really nice. The game's over and the post game's done before the show starts.
I'll tell you what, I consume more baseball probably than anybody, either of us know, right? I can consume more now that games are shorter. So there's a constant opportunity to be able to see baseball, and I think that's been really important. And tie it back in, college game went to a pitch timer this year too. I think it's made a bigger impact there than it even has at the big league level.
There's some
really
5-hour college baseball. Get ping, ping, yeah. Last one, we've seen the victory vest with the Diamondbacks here. You've seen more and more of that. Have you touched the victory vest? Like, what does that rank?
I don't know that I would touch the victory vest. I think that's probably something I'll let the guys handle that. That's not something I'm interested in. It's probably a little sweaty.
What I guess trophy or whatever you want to call it around the majors would you be most interested in taking a picture with?
That's a good one. I really like, keeping with the vest theme, Pablo Lopez with the Twins bought a fishing vest from a fishing store, and they've got the Land of 10,000 Rakes on it for the Twins, which I think is pretty hilarious. If I had to go, I'd actually go the college route, because University of Tennessee started popularizing this last year, where they had a giant fur coat they put on guys that hit the home run. It was called the Daddy Coat. The Daddy Coat probably a little stinky now after 2 years of use, but man, that's cool. I love the dugout celebrations. I think it's great. Between that, you've got the what do they call it, the bird bath in Baltimore now, right? Where they've got just like a beer bong, but with water,
a bunch
right?
Of drunk people in the stands.
Listen, I lived in Baltimore, I understand. But there's some fun celebrations certainly throughout the game, and anything that shows off personality and guys. I feel like we went through an era, maybe over the last 20 years, where guys were afraid to look like they were having fun playing baseball, and really it's supposed to be fun, right? It's a kid's game.
Yeah.
Why don't we act like big kids when we're doing it? It's supposed to be fun.
Preach. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for your time.
That's my pleasure. Great to see you.
Appreciate it.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.